Hello. So I'm very proud to be here. Emmanuel Francois, so I'm the founder of an association which is called Smart Building Alliance for Smart Cities. I founded this association 8 years ago with the vision that nobody will succeed to reinvent the building and the city of tomorrow alone. This is all together. And today, I succeeded to group almost 700 members in France, rethinking the building of the cities of tomorrow with digital frame contract that can support all this evolution which is environmental evolution combined with digital transformation. I'm also the founder of a fund to rethink the world, but this time to define new paths for a better world. I wrote a manifesto, which is here, and you can take it at the outside. And here is addressed to any citizens of the world. Now you will listen to something I think you will never have heard before. This is a vision for the cities and the territories. And I will start with history. First, everything is possible if we want. In 1880, New York, it was electrification. And the city of New York decided to electrify the city very rapidly and was the first city to be electrified. 10 years later, they decided to get rid of thermal cars. In 10 years, they succeeded to get rid of thermal cars. No, not of thermal cars, of carriage. And they switched to thermal car. This is quite important information. Today, we are thinking to move to electrical vehicles, and we don't know when. Here in New York, in 10 years, they get rid of carriage. And why I'm showing that? Because it made New York the smartest city of the 20th century. And it has been the example of all the cities. And all the cities have been organized as New York was. The result is today what you see here. And what is it? What is it? Cities have grown, considering that resources were inexhaustible, considering that transportation was the solution to lengthening on the distance, mostly driven by financial purpose, very centralized, forgetting the human being. The result is just incredible, and everybody here knows that. The cost of housing, energy, 25% of European population is in poverty. The cost of travel, time to work, absenteeism, but also its urban areas are 78% of global energy consumption, transport and buildings, 78%. And it's 70% of GHG emission, 70%. And it's 8% more within the last year. It's health, with 9 million people, early deaths because of air pollution. It's 50% of the superficie of the cities by cars. It's global warming, you know that. 3 degrees and maybe 5 degrees. It's also the problem with water, 20% water lost every year in most cities. It's also waste. We had this discussion. 70% of global waste in the world. And plus 70% within the last year, and plus 70% for the next 30 years. This is no longer bearable. We need to change now. We have to change our models, our way of living. Radical change are needed. And for this, energy is crucial. Yes, the city of tomorrow will be electric. Electric and decarbonate. Photovoltaic, smart grids, e-mobility, heating. This will be electric. And what I want to highlight is 140 years ago, you had two people, Tesla and Edison. And they chose the electrification of New York. It was Edison against Tesla. Tesla won. Edison wanted to stay in AC current. And Tesla won with DC. And the city of New York became in direct current. That's the reason why what I'm saying you have never heard before. The transportation of all, in New York, of all electricity has been in DC. And then all the cities, everything, and the world today is in DC, direct current. But the context has changed. In 2020, transportation in DC at high voltage is possible. It was not possible 120 years ago. 41% of electricity in 2030 will be renewable. And renewable energy is DC. All electronic device, your computer, your smartphone, your stereo, everything is in DC. Your lighting is in DC. And each time you convert, you have energy, 10% to 15% energy which is going away. And you need also alimentation. You need converters. And it costs a lot of carbon, a lot of energy. Can you imagine, even IoT? We speak about billions of IoT powered by alimentation. Tomorrow, what I'm saying, we get rid of this alimentation. Now you will say, but this guy is crazy. It's just utopic, but no. First, 3 basic characteristics of DC. No frequency, no phase, no amplitude. The stability, no periodic change. The efficiency. I don't want to go too much in details, technical details. This presentation you can have. I would just want to say this is feasible, this is today. And when you look in 2050, almost 50% of energy produced accepted will be renewable, and it will be in DC. When you have today DC transportation, it's 15% loss. General DC load, 50% of the loads are in DC. And now, what's happening today? What is the context? You can notice that everywhere in the world, you have universities, cities, real estate working on that, industrials. From my point of view, this is one of the 10 major challenges of the next years for cities and for countries. And this is already in place. I give you an example. Google has well understood that. And they are the first one to have built a residential building in Toronto with all the devices in DC. No more converters. But also in Netherlands. Netherlands are very, very in advance. And the headquarters of ABN AMRO, the bank, is in DC. In China, they have built the first building, 8,000 square meters, also in DC. And in France, it's also coming. And the city of Châteauneuf, if you know them, it's in Loire. The mayor is a visionary. And he has said, I want to be the first city promoting DC. And he has installed photovoltaic panels, hydrogen storage, energy storage, and he's supplying all the lighting of this city. You can imagine, and also some buildings. It's starting. My vision now is to deploy that rapidly worldwide. And this is the vision of the global ecosystem, hybrid, system, AC and DC, centralized and local, local production and centralized production. This is key. And this is not what's happening today. This is not the vision of, this is not the cities of today. So I have written a charter to call everybody, politicians, industrials, citizens, to move gradually in this direction. I will not go in details. You can read further this charter, and you can sign it here. You want to change, and change now, you can sign. You can sign for a more sustainable world with less energy consumption while moving progressively to DC. And why should we move partially to DC? Why? Production and storage of renewable energies are in DC. Electrical vehicles are in DC, and electrical vehicles will power the buildings of tomorrow, and it's still the case in some countries, in Netherlands or in northern countries. Electrical storage is in DC. Microgrids will be in DC. Electrification of non-electrified countries or regions will be in DC. Simplification of electrical distribution is a key point today. I know that industrials are not very happy with that, but here, it is less cable, it is less protection, less converters, standardization of plugs. That means tomorrow you will have only one plug worldwide. This is USB 3.1c. And why I'm saying that? Because in parallel, we need to we need to deploy digital infrastructure everywhere in the buildings and in the cities. That's exactly what the city of Angers is doing. And my message is, at the same time, we bring the digital infrastructure in cities and buildings, and we deploy DC in the cities and in the buildings, as it was the case 140 years ago for New York. And I don't want to stop here. First is energy, but start with also water, local storage and local utilization. No more taking drinkable water for any kind of usages. Also for waste. I mean, why should we have companies taking care of bio waste? We need to treat it locally and make compost and methane and reuse it locally. My vision is to recreate the village of the 21st century, to rebuild the city above the city. We need to change now. This is a big challenge. And reinvest the territories, because it will not last anymore that having big cities and nobody in rurality. And here, I'm just taking this example. This is not an example, it's history. If you look in the landscape, you will see that in Paris, you had village before, 100 years ago. 400 meters, you had everything almost, and 4 kilometers, you had all the services. In rural areas, 4 kilometers and 40 kilometers. These criteria are just for Europe, Asia, and also America. What I want is to have every services and activity locally. Stop working having 3 hours per day in transportation. It is not possible. Thanks to digital, the human activities has changed. Co-living, co-working, e-health, e-commerce, mobility, e-mobility, agriculture 4.0, industry 4.0, construction 4.0. What was centralized can be also decentralized. Both are good. Universities, e-campus. My vision is now to say we need to rethink the buildings, plural, hybrid, multi-usage, scalable, service-oriented because they are digital, they are connected. We will, instead of having 30% of the space used, we will switch to 70%. Instead of having cars used only 5% of the time, we will have cars or mobility used 70% of the time. This is a major evolution because we are moving from property to usages and services around these usages. So the city of tomorrow, for me, has to be with more diversity, more proximity, and frugality in respect of the human beings and our planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel Francois, for such an inspiring, please take a seat, such an inspiring, closer to me, please, for such an inspiring keynote there. I want to sign the charter. I want to be on board. I love what you're doing. What I find most interesting about the DC is I've been working on an independent report for Murdoch University in Western Australia. And when we looked at the whole power and light agenda for Africa, my colleagues and I said it has to be DC. But some people said to us, you guys are crazy. So how do we move forward so that people don't start saying that we're crazy? How can we make this happen?
Well, you know, that's the reason why I start with New York. 10 years to switch from carriage to thermal cars. What I think today is it will also take 10 years to switch from thermal car to electrical vehicles because of many things, economic, sanitary, and also political, and usages, change of usages. And as soon as the cars are electric, then we'll have this question. This car is no more a vehicle, but it's also smart grid vector, because we will need this energy, which is in all the cars, to power the buildings and the city when it's needed. So it's vice versa. And as soon as we have this, then we can move to DC. And this is a major change. Of course, it hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts because people will say, but this is crazy to have two networks in the buildings. It's okay in new buildings, but in old buildings, no. But once again, we have to reinvent the buildings. And since the business of tomorrow will be around usages, around services, on these usages, what will pull us, what will motivate us is the level of services and not the property. And this is a key point.
My final question is, what could those in the room, those listening, those watching, what could they do to help us on this mission to make this change now?
So first, we need to have, that's in the charter, we need to have equipment directly powered in DC. My wish is that Apple, IBM, Dell, switch to DC components. It's already the case. If you look at your iPhone, it's powered in DC. But now they have to harmonize. Also, all the electrical equipment of a home and a building. Then that real estate start making buildings in DC. I'm very close to one which is Bouygues, and they are working on it, but also in other countries. And last but least, that politicians decide. I have understood, Mr. Francois, this is important for the planet. Me, Mr. Béchu, I decide to experiment that on my city. Several mayors have already listened to me and are starting as the city of Châteauneuf.
Thank you very much. You really inspired me. I hope you inspired others in the room this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel Francois.